real big news happening right now on the Jeffrey Epstein front. We have forensic analysis done by CBS on the CCTV footage at the Manhattan Correctional Facility where Jeffrey Epstein was being held. We do also have commentary on Joe Rogan from this, and we have further comments from Donald Trump in regards to Virginia Giuffre. We're going to watch this video on 1.25 speed because it is 10 minutes long, and I've already been recording for 70 minutes.
This month, the Federal Bureau of Investigation released the primary video used in the investigation of the death of convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Deputy Director of the FBI, Dan Bongino, described that video on Fox and Friends just weeks before its release.
There's video that when you look at the video, and we will release, that's what's taken a while on this, we are working on cleaning it up to make sure you have an enhanced, and we're going to give the original so you don't think there were any shenanigans. You're going to see there's no one there but him. There's video clear as day. He's the only person in there and the only person coming out. You can see it.
We showed this video to multiple video forensics experts who agreed what the FBI and others have said is simply not true. That video and other evidence led to the conclusion by the government that Epstein's death on August 10, 2019 was suicide. An analysis in consultation with video forensic experts suggests multiple inconsistencies between statements from government officials, including Bongino, a report from the Department of Justice's Office of the Inspector General into Epstein's death released in 2023, and the tape itself. These inconsistencies, while not contradicting the conclusion Epstein died by suicide, do introduce questions that the government so far has declined to answer. We'll show you those in a moment. First,
this is shaping up to be the worst government cover-up of all time because it's just they're so bad at this. You'll see it later on. There's a fucking cursor that comes across the screen, which means they screen recorded these tapes. They use like OBS or something. Trump's in there, bro. Trump may have killed Epstein himself at this rate with how shitty this cover-up is.
Take this all down. Epstein was held at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Lower Manhattan in a unit separate from the general population known as the Special Housing Unit, or SHU. The unit has 3 wings, each with 2 levels. Epstein was held in the upstairs L tier of his wing. That tier is accessed by a set of stairs from the central common area. Directly adjacent to those stairs is the officer's station, where on-duty corrections officers spend most of their time. The Inspector General report says several cameras in the unit were streaming a live feed to a remote location in the prison, but no one was watching them. Malfunctioning equipment meant only one camera recorded the general area. That camera captured part of the common area, including the officer's station and a sliver of the staircase leading to Epstein's cell. The footage begins at 7:40 p.m. the night before Epstein's death. You can see staff and inmates moving about, preparing for the nightly lockdown. That's the officer's station in the background. Only 2 employees have been publicly identified. Tova Noel, a corrections officer pulling a double shift that began at 4 p.m., and Michael Thomas, a materials handler who won't arrive until midnight. Epstein is seen for the first and only time on camera at 7:49 p.m. when the Department of Justice said he was escorted to his cell from another wing of the unit. It's important to note here, you don't actually see Epstein ascend the stairwell to his cell block. Remember what Dan Bongino said.
There's video clear as day. He's the only person in there and the only person coming out. You can see it.
Clear as day. And it's
Let's
just
zoom
his
in and play that
legs. You can see him clear as day. And it's literally just 2 legs walking. For all we know, that could be just like a pair of pants moving around, like that Fresno cryptid or whatever. You guys know what I'm talking about if you're online. It's so convenient. He's behind a fucking railing, and Dan Bongino is like clear as day. He's there.
Again in slow motion. Here's the sliver of stairs. Epstein is here with his escort, and they walk off screen. When the FBI released the video, they said anyone entering or attempting to enter the tier where Epstein's cell was located from the common area would have been captured by this footage. But with the primary entrance here, the pathway from the entrance to the stairs is completely out of view of the camera. For the next hour or so, corrections officers and inmates are seen moving about, preparing for all prisoners to be locked down. At 8:21, another inmate is seen being escorted toward the stairs leading to Epstein's cell area. No movement is detected on the stairs again. By 8:24, all of the inmates appear to have been taken to their cells. Noel told the Inspector General she visited Epstein's cell at about 10 p.m. You can see her head in that direction here, albeit closer to 10:30, but not climb the stairs. The rules require rounds to be made every 30 minutes, but according to the report, this was the only time anyone checked on the inmates that night. There was even a sign printed on orange paper posted on the guard station saying mandatory rounds must be conducted every 30 minutes on Epstein, as per God. This was because of concerns about his risk for suicide. At 10:38 p.m., the report says someone, probably Noel, carries a bundle of bedding or clothing up the stairs. It's a rare instance the video does catch movement on the stairs, but barely. Let's see that zoomed in and in slow motion again. Several of the video forensic experts we spoke with were skeptical about the report's conclusion and thought that the video could be showing an inmate walking up the stairs. Authorities say this...
Dude, like, come on, man. Come on. Who's buying this, bro? Who's buying this? There's no way. There's no way. They were talking about the staircase being in full view before the video dropped, or whatever the fuck, that you could see the staircase. And and apparently they were being like literal in the sense that, yeah, you could see it, but you could see half an inch of it in 192p. You see this in worse quality than a fucking VHS tape.
This was the last time anyone approached his cell block until his body was discovered the next morning. Again, while the video does not contradict that, experts who viewed the video say the limited field of view makes it impossible to definitively conclude that no one used those stairs in that time period. Beyond this, there are other issues our investigation and others have uncovered. At 11:21 p.m. and 34 seconds, a cursor appears briefly on screen, indicating the video may have been recorded with a camera or a screen recording and was not an export of the RAW file. The FBI said it had seized the prison's hard drive 5 days after his death and had released the full RAW footage this month. Two experts told CBS News the video's metadata, which tracks how a file is created and changed, shows it's made from 2 clips stitched together in editing software. Those experts also say the video was
At least they used MP4. They remuxed the OBS file from .mkv to MP4. Yeah, nah. Yeah, sorry. Epstein, yeah, obviously Jeffrey Epstein did not die of suicide. But every piece of evidence that they drop is like, oh yeah, no, someone snuck in there and beat his ass and killed him. He got whacked, dude. He got whacked.
And saved multiple times. Next up, the now famous missing minute. At 11:57 and 35 seconds, an individual appears on screen from the direction of the main door. It's likely this is Michael Thomas arriving for his midnight shift and replacing the other staff member on duty who'd been working from 4 to midnight. Noel was starting a second shift of 8 hours. From that point on, only Noel and Thomas were on duty during the critical window when Epstein is believed to have died. At 11:58 and 58 seconds, the video jumps to midnight, and the aspect ratio of the video changes slightly. Another indication.
Yeah, this is actually extraordinary. We live in a surveillance state, okay? You cannot step outside without being recorded by somebody, by something, by some business. 24-hour surveillance all the time. Your fucking job has 24-hour surveillance. And yet, in the very prison that Jeffrey Epstein died, the camera resets. The camera resets. That is fucking dumb. Why? How is it that a high-profile correctional facility does not have 24-hour surveillance? Why does the camera have to reset, Pam Bondi? Why? Why? And she's like, oh, it's because it's from 1999. Like, get a new fucking surveillance system.
It may have been edited. Zooming in and playing back in slow motion, you can see a slight shift in the shape of the figure standing or sitting around the officer's desk, but otherwise, nothing changes. Attorney General Pam Bondi attributed the missing minute to a nightly reset of the security camera system.
There was a minute that was off the counter, and what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every night, they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999, so every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing, so we're looking for that video to release that as well, showing that a minute is missing every night.
That additional video has not been released, and a government source has alleged to CBS News the FBI and other agencies are in possession of the full, unedited footage. Why the FBI did not release that is unclear, and the agency offered no comment.
Because
the Inspector
someone
General
snuck in and killed Jeffrey Epstein, man. I know that I know that he can't say that because he's a forensic analysis, and you know he's got to be truthful and pragmatic. But I could say that because I'm a guy online. I'm a conspiracy theorist. Someone snuck in there and killed Jeffrey Epstein at 11:59. I don't know if it was coincidental. Actually, no, it definitely was not. But if that were to happen, they would have been privy to that information. There's no way that it's so convenient that that minute skips.
No indication there was a minute missing when their team reviewed the video. We can surmise the male staffer working the 4 to 12 shift would have left during the missing minute based on the report, leaving just Noel and Thomas. But that is not seen on camera. Serious problems with the government's investigation and witness statements don't end there. The report says the unit was secured by 2 doors, one requiring a key held only by Noel and Thomas. Noel told investigators no one could enter without her physically opening that door. But here's where it gets tricky. Let's look at this one example. 4 a.m. Noel remains in full view of the camera, yet seconds later, someone walks in, and it appears neither Noel nor Thomas let her in. The report is silent on this apparent contradiction. And even if there was no other key, both Noel and Thomas had ample opportunities to let someone in. At least a half dozen times, one or the other of them exits the camera frame in the direction of the door, all without explanation. We shared this with our forensic experts who agreed there was no way to conclusively determine from the video whether an unseen visitor was or was not let into the Epstein unit, although both Noel and Thomas have said no one else entered. At 6:22, either Thomas or Noel walk off screen again and reappear carrying food trays, breakfast for the prisoners. At this point, based on the autopsy results, Epstein is believed to already be dead. According to Thomas's account, he arrived at Epstein's cell to deliver his breakfast and found him in a seated position, his buttocks an inch from the ground, held up by a torn sheet tied to the bunk bed in his room. At 6:30, someone rushes in from off-camera, according to the report. This was Noel returning to the desk to call for help after Thomas discovered Epstein. Epstein's body was quickly removed from the cell. Only Noel and Thomas witnessed him hanging. At 6:40 a.m., the video ends. Epstein's body is not seen being removed. Both Thomas and Noel have said they played no role in Epstein's death. They were charged with falsifying documents, but those charges were dropped as part of a plea deal. Additional clarification could come from a second camera mentioned in the report. It recorded an elevator bank in the same unit. Although the report stated that it did not cover areas that would have included access to Epstein's cell, it would at least show a missing minute. We reached out to the Department of Justice to see about obtaining that footage. They referred us to the FBI, who referred us back to the Department of Justice. Neither Thomas nor Noel responded to our inquiries through their legal representatives.
The dumbest people are in government, dude. They're just so fucking stupid.
For a case that demanded transparency, it's yet another muddled chapter, raising more questions than it answers.
Yeah, that's the whole point. Everyone in the... Okay, listen, guys. We got to be real here. Everyone in the federal government knows that Jeffrey Epstein did not kill himself. Regardless of what Kash Patel says on Joe Rogan, regardless of what Dan Bongino says, everyone knows he was whacked. By who? We don't know. But everyone knows he was whacked because he was going to spill the fucking beans. He was going to spill the beans about the global pedophile sex ring that just so happened to include Donald Trump. And Donald Trump did not want that. Which is why he's going to these lengths to either discredit or obfuscate everything. However, Donald Trump, Freudian slip there, Donald Trump has picked up a new critic, and that being Joseph Roganson. If you remember, Joe Rogan, the king of conspiracies, had Kash Patel on his show, who's the director of the FBI. Kash Patel was like, listen, bro, Jeffrey Epstein killed himself, man. Like, you know he killed himself. And Joe Rogan's like, yeah, whatever. And ever since then, Joe was like, what am I going to do? Why am I going to push back on this guy? It's like, I don't know. Because you claim to be an independent free thinker, you're not going to push back on the director of the FBI. You pushed back on Bernie Sanders when you guys were talking about your buddy Elon Musk contributing to Donald Trump's campaign by saying, oh, how much money did Kamala Harris raise? And it's like, okay, yeah, valid. That's right. But why are you going to bring the smoke for Bernie Sanders and press him, but not Kash Patel? It doesn't make any sense. Well, he was talking with former Fed Mike Baker about this. And Joe Rogan's like, I don't know, bro. It just like doesn't make any sense, bro.
You'd spend the entire time. People are like, oh, they're going to talk about this the whole time? But yeah.
The Epstein stuff is so crazy because when Kash Patel was on here and he was like, there's nothing. And I was like, what are you talking?
Yeah.
I didn't even know what to say. My thought was, and people are like, why didn't you push back more? My thought was like, I'm just going to put this out there and let the internet do its work because there's nothing I can. The guy's saying there's no tapes, there's no video. That doesn't make any sense. Everyone knows it doesn't make any sense. And then
the reason why you push back is to have him say something that he's not supposed to say. You're supposed to push back so that way he can defend this ridiculous cover-up. But he's friends with your friend Donald Trump, so that's why you're not pushing back on it. Like, you can raise all these points about the autopsy, about the three broken bones, about the video resetting, about all this, about, well, now we know that they screen recorded this, about the raw files not actually being released, about this lack of transparency. You could push back on all of that, but you decided not to.
He didn't know about the Michael Baden stuff, the autopsy stuff, where it showed that he had 3 broken bones in his neck, which never happens when you hang yourself. Even when you like leap from somewhere with a rope around your neck and it snaps your neck, you never have 3
and he's
broken
in a prison
bones.
cell. He's not launching himself off the first floor balcony.
The whole thing was nuts. And then he's like, well, we have a film. We're going to release that film. And the film has a fucking minute missing from it.
Yeah.
Like, do you think we're babies? Like, what is this?
Also, you got people, including Dan Bongino, right? Making bank
Joe should have said that straight to Cash Patel. Do you think we're babies? Do you think I got a baby brain? I mean, Joe does kind of have a baby brain. I'm not going to lie. But you could have said that verbatim to him.
Couple of years talking about how awful it is, and we got to get this shit, and this is a huge conspiracy, and then you release a 2-page memo that says, there's nothing to see here.
Yeah, because you're walking by your bedrown window and you see a little laser. Little red laser moving across your chest.
But it really is. It's so look. You know me. I'm not a conspiracy guy by
you
nature.
Are today.
But I am today. Today, I'm fully on board with this shit.
Everybody's in today.
Yeah. No. But they're actually doing right as we speak. And I find this fascinating. Is that the Assistant Attorney General Todd Blanche is down in Florida for an interview with Ghislaine Maxwell. Right? And she's serving 20 years in a Florida prison for sex trafficking. Right?
To who, though?
What's that?
To who?
Well, he's down there to interview her.
But I'm saying
right?
she's sex trafficked to who?
She was a co-conspirator of Epstein's, right?
But don't you have to have a person who you're sex trafficking to?
Exactly.
He missed. That's another thing. Maybe Joe will bring that up if he ever has anyone from the Trump administration on to discuss that. Who am I kidding? Joe, like anyone from the Trump administration would make that off limits if they were gonna talk to Joe Rogan. They're like, you cannot bring up Epstein, otherwise we're gonna fucking kill you. We're gonna skin you alive on camera. But yeah, if Jeffrey Epstein wasn't actually trafficking and assaulting these girls, then what the fuck is Ghislaine Maxwell doing in prison? Our last little bit of this is in regards to Donald Trump and his comments on Virginia Giuffre. Virginia Giuffre was one of the more prominent accusers, I would say, in regards to obviously Jeffrey Epstein and Prince Andrew and now Donald Trump. And he had some really strange comments on this that just further make him look guilty as fuck.
Pretty soon. Mr. President, Epstein has a certain reputation, obviously. But just curious, were some of the workers that were taken from you, were some of them young women?
Were some of them
young women?
Well, I don't want to say, but everyone knows the people that were taken. And it was the concept of taking people that work for me is bad. But that story's been pretty well out there. And the answer is yes, they were.
Yes, they were young women?
The concept of taking people from me is very bad. The concept of pedophilia, not so much. Not so much. Jeffrey Epstein, he did a very horrible thing. He stole an employee of mine. Yes, can you believe it? I hired an underage girl to be a masseuse, and Jeffrey Epstein stole her from me. I don't quite remember her name, but her name was Virginia Giuffre. I have thousands of employees all across the world, and I can't remember all of their names, but I remember her very vividly. Her name was Virginia Giuffre. It's spelled Giuffre.
Jobs in the spa.
Yeah, people that work in the spa. I have a great spa, one of the best spas in the world at Mar-a-Lago. And people were taken out of the spa, hired by him. In other words, gone. And other people would come and complain, this guy is taking people from the spa. I didn't know that. And then when I heard about it, I told him, I said, listen, we don't want you taking our people, whether it was spa or not spa. I don't want them taking people. And he was fine, and then not too long after that, he did it again, and I said, out of here.
Mr. President, did one of those stolen, persons, that include Virginia Jeffrey?
I don't know. I think she worked at the spa. I think so. I think that was one of the people. Yeah. He stole her. And by the way, she had no complaints about us, as you know. None whatsoever.
He's so guilty, bro. He's so guilty. I'm a due process supporter. I think that Donald Trump, if he's ever linked to Jeffrey Epstein, should stand a fair trial. But he's fucking guilty, bro. I don't know if he stole her, but yes, he stole her. I don't remember if she was a masseuse, but she was actually one of the best masseuses that I had. She was 16 years old at the time. I think she was underage when he hired her as a masseuse. He's so guilty, bro. He's so guilty. I know that his crisis team is scrambling whenever this question gets brought up, because he's just going to say something that they're going to have to spin, and they can put the spin doctor on all they want. You're not getting this past anybody with a semi-functioning brain. There's just no way. There's just no way. He said, I don't know if Virginia Giuffre was one of the girls that Jeffrey Epstein stole, but he stole her, and I was very mad at him for it. He stole this underage masseuse that I hired, but she had no complaints about me. She did not complain about me at all. In fact, she said that I was the best boss that she ever had, and that Jeffrey Epstein was actually a really terrible boss, and that she wishes that he never stole her. I so desperately want this situation not to go anywhere. Justice needs to be served. I am so fucking sick and tired of the ruling class being able to get away with whatever they want. And as far as I'm concerned, this is an open and shut case. Donald Trump did that shit, bro. He did. He did. Every time he talks about this, he looks more and more, he incriminates himself further and further